Hey everyone, welcome to this video on how to create a method of procedure, commonly called a MOP for data center equipment maintenance. Now I know it sounds like admin work, but this little document, it's what helps us do high-risk maintenance without putting people or uptime at risk. Alright, let's set the stage by looking at what we'll actually cover. Learning objectives. Here's what we're going to walk through today. What a MOP really is and why it matters. When do we need one? The key elements to include common mistakes to avoid, and how to improve them over time based on real jobs. Cool. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a MOP? A MOP is a step-by-step guide that explains exactly how to carry out a maintenance task, especially if there's risk involved or it could affect operations. Think about a generator load test or a UPS isolation. If something goes wrong, there's no room for oops. A well-written MOP removes that risk by laying out the game plan, clearly and safely. When is a MOP required in a data center? It is required any time a task could potentially impact uptime, safety, or the functionality of critical infrastructure. It's not just paperwork, it's a safeguard for operations. First, MOPs are essential during preventive or corrective maintenance on power and cooling systems. For example, when performing a load bank test on a UPS system, replacing a failed generator starter, cleaning crack filters, or using thermal imaging to scan for hotspots on a power distribution unit, each of these activities involves inherent risk and requires a structured approach. Next, MOPs are mandatory during equipment upgrades or cutovers. That includes uploading new firmware to the building management system, updating the logic on STS or ATS units, migrating to a new monitoring platform, or replacing control boards inside a UPS. Any change in configuration can introduce new risks if not carefully managed. They're also critical during load transfers and isolation work. Whether you're switching load from utility to generator, isolating UPS output to test a breaker, transferring mechanical loads between key rack units, or racking breakers in and out, these are moments where a mistake could take down a system. And finally, MOPs are required for any task that could impact uptime or safety, even if it's not routine maintenance. Think of fire alarm interface testing, drilling near live conduit, working overhead above energized cabinets, or powering up a new cabinet inside a live data hall. These are high-risk moments that demand formal procedures. Let's now break down what a solid MOP actually looks like. So what goes into a solid MOP? You want a structure that's easy to follow, like 1. Job title and basic info. 2. Scope of work, what you're actually doing. 3. A pre-work checklist. 4. The step-by-step procedure. 5. Reinstatement and final checks. 6. Signatures to close it out. That's the flow. From prep to closeout, it's all in one place. Let's zoom into the first critical piece, the pre-work checklist. Before anyone picks up a tool, your MOP should walk the team through a proper prep checklist. Let's say we're about to do a 12-month service on a standby generator. Here's what you do, and more importantly, why. Notify the NOC, Network Operations Center. The NOC oversees live systems across the site. If you isolate a power source or trigger an alarm, they're the first ones to see it. Giving them a heads-up prevents panic and avoids unnecessary incident escalations. It also lets them monitor the system in real time while you're working. The next one, check the BMS for alarms. The building management system gives you live data from across the facility. Temperatures, voltages, system faults, you name it. Before doing any work, you want to make sure there aren't existing issues or active alarms. If something's already wrong, you could make it worse without realizing it. Verify fuel and coolant levels. Obviously, this is an important pre-check you will do before your run generator offload or onload to inspect the working parameters. So this should be included. Inspect tools and PPE. You don't want to get halfway through the job and realize your torque wrench is off or your gloves are damaged. Quick checks now mean fewer delays later. So this is very crucial. Assign and label LODO kits. That's lockout tagout, a safety system to make sure no one accidentally energizes a piece of equipment while someone else is working on it. For example, when we isolate a generator feeder breaker, we lock it in the off position and tag it with our name, time, and reason. That way, everyone knows the system is offline for a reason. and no one flips it back on until it's safe. So yeah, this part might seem basic, but it's where most jobs go wrong when people rush it. A solid pre-check is what sets up the rest of the MOP for success. Isolation and maintenance procedure. All right now, we're into the heart of the MOP, the actual maintenance work. This is where the step-by-step procedure lives, and each step should be clear enough that someone new to the site could follow it without second-guessing. No vague instructions or assumptions. Cool. Let's use a generator service example again to walk through it. Isolation will be the first step of the maintenance process, so isolate the generator feeder breaker. In case you don't know what that means, we're cutting off the power supply to or from the generator to make sure it's fully de-energized before we start working on it. This usually involves turning the breaker to the off position and applying a lockout-tagout device to make sure no one can flip it back on by mistake. Drain the oil and coolant. This step is just like with any engine. You want to remove the old fluids so you can refill them with clean, fresh ones. But here's the catch. These generators are huge, so you need spill kits, buckets, and sometimes even pumps. And yes, write this into the MOP. Don't assume people will just know. Replace filters. Fuel filters, oil filters, and air filters all need swapping during annual maintenance. In case you don't know, clogged filters can reduce efficiency or cause the generator to fail under load. This part should include exact part numbers and torque values where needed. So be specific. Inspect belts and adjust valve clearance. These mechanical checks are easy to miss, but super important. A worn belt or loose valve can throw off the generator's timing or cause failure when it's needed most. If possible, include a diagram or reference where to find specs in the manual. Thermal scan the control panel. This one's all about predictive maintenance. A thermal camera can help you spot overheating relays, loose connections, or stressed components. In case you haven't used one, it's as simple as pointing and scanning, but the MOP should say what to scan and what's considered abnormal. Run a load test and log all readings. After maintenance, you want to make sure the generator can handle real load. The MOP should include expected ranges for voltage, frequency, coolant temperature, oil pressure, whatever's critical for that site. All of these steps should be in order, clearly numbered or checklisted, and each one should be written like the person doing the work has never seen this site before. The more detailed your MOP, the fewer questions your team will have and the safer and smoother the job goes. Reinstatement and post-maintenance checks. All right now, you've completed the maintenance, everything's serviced, inspected, tested, but the job's not done yet. Now comes the reinstatement, bringing the system back to its normal state and doing it safely. Here's what that. Remove all lockout-tagout devices. Now the work is complete and it's safe to re-energize the system. Those LOTO devices can be removed, but only by the person who applied them. That's part of the safety protocol. Never skip this step or hand it off. Reset the emergency stop and bring the system back to auto. Emergency stop buttons are usually activated during maintenance to make sure the generator doesn't try to start while you're working on it. Once you've confirmed that all your work is complete and the generator is safe, hit the reset and switch the controller back to auto mode. Check for alarms on the BMS. This is your final system check. Go back to the building management system and make sure there are no unexpected alarms, like oil pressure faults, battery voltage alerts, or start failures. If there's anything out of the ordinary, stop and investigate before handing it back over. Do a walk around and clear the work area. This one's basic but essential. In case you're in a rush, don't be. Make sure no tools are left behind, all access panels are closed and secure, and the area is clean and safe for the next team. Notify the NOC or site lead that the system is fully operational again. Same way you told them you were starting, you tell them it's done. That way they can clear any temporary monitoring alerts and mark the job complete on their end too. This phase is all about closing the loop. This step ensures the system is stable, secure, and configured exactly as it should be for standard operations. And again, write this into the MOP every single step. Don't leave reinstatement to chance. Sign off and completion. So now the system's back to normal, the site is clean, and the NOC's been notified. But hold up, you're not done yet. You still need to sign off the MOP. And in case you don't know why this matters, let me explain. The sign-off is your official record that the job was completed. It was reviewed. Everything is safe and operational. It's not just about ticking boxes. If something fails next week, this document becomes your receipt. It says, "Hey, we followed the right process. Here's proof." A typical sign-off includes the name of the person who performed the work, the name of the supervisor or witness who confirmed it, time and date of completion, notes about anything unusual, delays, or follow-up actions. And trust me, if you don't include it, you'll regret it when someone asks who worked on this last. So yeah, don't skip the sign-off. It's the last step that makes your MOP official. Sample MOP, case study. Let me give you a real example of a well-written MOP in action. We had a major service planned for a 2500 kVA standby generator. Full 12-month inspection. Draining fluids, checking filters, valve adjustment, thermal scans, load test, the whole lot. Because the MOP was clear and detailed, everything went smooth. The NOC was informed. All safety steps were followed. The team knew what to expect at every stage, and reinstatement was clean and fast. There were no delays, no confusion, no guesswork, and best of all, no incidents. That's exactly what a good MOP is meant to do. It keeps the job on track, keeps people safe, and gives you a clean trail of accountability. Common mistakes to avoid. All right, let's talk about the common traps people fall into when creating or using MOPs. Being too vague. Don't just say inspect system. What are you inspecting? What tools are needed? What does a pass or fail look like? Be specific. Skipping safety details. PPE, lockout, tagout, communication steps. If they're not written in the MOP, they'll probably get skipped in real life. No reinstatement steps. You'd be surprised how many MOPs forget to explain how to put things back online. That's a problem waiting to happen. Missing sign-off section. If no one signs off, who owns the job? If something goes wrong later, there's zero accountability. So yeah, avoid these and your MOP becomes a real tool, not just a tick box exercise. Quick recap. To wrap things up, let's hit the main points one last time. A MOP is your safety plan. It guides high-risk work step by step. Use it for anything that could impact uptime, safety, or system configuration. A great MOP includes prep, task breakdown, reinstatement, and sign-off. Be clear, be thorough, and tailor it to the actual job, not just a generic template. And finally, keep improving them based on feedback and lessons learned. That's how you go from just following a process to actually owning it. Thank you. And that's it. Thanks for sticking through this walkthrough on creating an effective MOP. Hopefully now, whether you're writing one or just following one, you'll see the value behind every line in that document. If you've got questions, want to see more real-life examples, or need help building your own templates, feel free to reach out. Until then, stay sharp, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.